Normally, when there's an informal, I get to introduce the speakers and then sit down and maybe quiz them at the end, and I sit filming, and I take very much a back seat. But today, for the first time, I put myself on the spot, and I'm going to be speaking. I'm going to be joined by Maria Cotera, who will be telling a little bit about herself in a second, and we may try and lure a couple of other surprise speakers from the audience as well. They have been warned, so we're not going to leap on anybody. My name is Doug Knock. I have two sort of roles tonight. First one is I am the ILIG chair, so I'm chair of CILIP's International Library and Information Group. I'm going to speak about that very briefly. And my second role is as the recipient of the 2012 CILIP IFLA First Timer Award, which meant that I was funded by CILIP to go to Helsinki for the IFLA World Library and Information Congress in August. First of all, there are two tables at the back. One of them has my selection of IFLA goodies. You can help yourself to the licorice, but the rest of it is mine. The other one has got Focus Journal. Now, Focus is one of ILIG's little projects. It is our journal, which is produced 3 times a year. These copies, you can help yourself. There are some good articles in there. You can have a look. If you quite like the look of Focus, then consider joining ILIG. We're always looking for new members. There's information on how to join us. And about this time of year, CILIP starts to send out its membership forms. And if you're a member of CILIP, then you can choose your special interest groups. And if you're already a member of 2 special interest groups, you can only pay about £10 to join ILIG or any other groups. So certainly consider us. Now, why would you want to consider joining ILIG? It's a question I was actually asked by someone working in IFLA. She'd had a look on the ILIG website. She wasn't sure whether, although she worked abroad, whether international librarianship, it was a group she should belong to. We're quite a special group because a lot of CILIP's special interest groups relate to profession. So you'll get the Health Libraries group, which is for the medical profession, Prison Library group, Public Library group. We cover all of those. We have an interest in international librarianship. We have an interest in working on communication with international colleagues. So we're working together with colleagues. We're improving our awareness of what's happening around the world. We're building bridges. We have some awards where we support librarians from poorer countries than the UK to come over on a study tour. We'll be running the Anthony Thompson Award, which is a bursary ILIG runs about every 2 or 3 years in partnership with CILIP. It's very relevant to this particular talk because Anthony Thompson was one of the first Secretary Generals of IFLA, and the actual bursary is named after him and linked into him. And we'll be sending out an invitation for applicants from Hinari eligible countries to come on a 2-week study tour to the UK, where we host them, we arrange visits to libraries, and we build professional connections and networks. So we're supporting people from poorer areas, but we're also now looking to build our connections with colleagues. For example, I met with colleagues when I was at the IFLA conference, European colleagues. We're building a database, or we're working together on a database of contacts, so I know who the international officers in Holland and Ukraine and Russia are, so we can build connections and awareness of what is happening in different countries. Something which I'm working on with a couple of committee members, it's called the Hosts Directory. It was actually set up quite a few years ago, possibly by Maria, definitely by Maria.
No, but I was involved.
And the concept is a directory of librarians. It's been a cross-collaboration between ILIG and the Career Development Group, and it is a directory of librarians who are willing to host colleagues from overseas for a couple of days while they're visiting. So you get to professionally network with someone from abroad, with a European librarian, an international librarian, and we're hoping to expand it, maybe use our European connections to expand it outside of the UK, to have a database so librarians from the UK might be able to spend a couple of days with European librarians to really build up these networks and work together and collaborate. Another project I've been working on with CILIP is, this is in the context of CILIP mentors. So we have, CILIP has approximately, well, it's about 600 or 700 members who are based overseas. So they may have qualified in the UK, but they're CILIP members, but they live outside of the UK and outside of Northern Ireland and Ireland. And some of these want to do the CILIP qualifications, but they're struggling to actually find mentors because normally a mentor will look at taking on somebody who lives locally so they can meet face to face. But nowadays with resources like Skype, emails, you can mentor anybody from around the world. So what I've been doing is contacting the CILIP mentors to find out who would be interested in considering taking a remote mentee. So I know some people are still doing the library qualifications here, and some people may be looking at chartership or accreditation. So this is an opportunity for people who cannot have easy access to a mentor to find somebody by looking at the CILIP website to get someone who's willing to take on the remote access and mentoring remote aspect of mentoring. Okay. So just looking at my program now before I go on too much about ILIG. So I'm now going to hand over to Maria, who is going to provide us with an overview of IFLA, what IFLA does, who they are, what they stand for, how it works.
Oh my God!
In 5 minutes. No.
Why not?
So I'll let Maria introduce herself.
Okay, thank you. That's very lazy of you.
I might get something wrong.
Yeah. Hello everybody. I'm Maria Cotera. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Understand me? Yes. My accent is Spanish. I've been here for 13 years, but I still speak as a Spanish speaker. I was committee member of ILIG until the end of last year, when I became a CILIP Councillor, so I'm a member of the CILIP Board of Trustees, and that's when I abandoned the committee because you have to be independent and impartial, yes, but I still have very much my heart in ILIG, as well as in the Career Development Group, which was the other special interest group of CILIP, where I was very active when I was president of the group a few years ago. So I've been involved in some of these projects that Doug had been mentioning. But just talking a little bit about me before we go into IFLA. The reason why I stand here is because I also was the recipient of a CILIP First Timer grant to go to IFLA a few years back. It was in 2004, and I was very fortunate to go to Buenos Aires in Argentina, and at that time. It was a very good trip, and it got me really inspired. And it got me thinking about how it would be like if I were involved more deeply into the work of IFLA. So ever since then, I've been attending the conferences and I've been doing some work as an IFLA activist, which I will tell you about later on today. But first of all, I just want to know how much, because I recognize some of you, but not everybody, and I know some of you are already active in IFLA, some of you might be thinking about it, some of you might not have a clue what it is. Can you please tell me more or less, so I can pitch this right? So how many of you have ever been to IFLA or are planning to go to the Congress? Let's talk about first. Oh, quite a few of you. Either been or planning to go. Okay, quite good. How many of you have been in the past but are not going anymore? No retired members. Okay, everybody wants to go again. That's brilliant. And how many of you know what IFLA stands for and what it does, apart from running an international congress every year? Okay, that's quite cool. For those of you that don't know, IFLA stands for International Federation of Library Associations and Institutions, which is the bit that we don't know if we don't know. It's a member-led organization. It has a very small secretariat with about 10 staff, some of them are part-time. They are based in The Hague. I know one person that has been at least. How many people have been to see the IFLA secretariat or have had the opportunity to meet them in their headquarters? No, you haven't? I'm looking at you, Sabello, because you organized a study tour to the building where it was. You didn't go to visit IFLA. Guy, you never been to?
I've never been to the headquarters now. No.
Okay, well, I'm the only one then. I can tell you they've had very nice headquarters in the National Library in The Hague. They're hosted by the National Library, so they don't need to pay for their accommodation. What I'm trying to get to is that it's a very modest operation. So most of what IFLA does is engage with volunteers around the world, both librarians and people that work in other sectors, and try to engage with politicians as well and to influence and be the voice, the global voice for library information professionals and its users around the world. But from a point of view of being a very small group of staff in shared premises that are donated by one particular library, and the main means of funding is this Congress that we will be talking about as well. But it's not only what IFLA does. IFLA funds itself through the Congress. Hello, Karen. Hello, Stevie. I think these are guest speakers. No? No? Yeah, because some of them have been to IFLA too. Yes, I've been to IFLA. Okay. So, what exactly would be more interesting for us to talk about that IFLA does, apart from the Congress? We have the website up here. And for me, it's important that I don't know whether you can say it, but for me it's important that you all have a look if you're interested like that, and go and have a look at the key initiatives. These are the stuff that IFLA had been doing for the last couple of years. And there are 5 key initiatives that everybody within the secretariats and the activists have been focusing on. The digital content program, there is a e-lending program at the moment. And I'm not going to say very much about it, especially because Guy Danes is here, and he's the expert, so I don't want to talk very much about what IFLA is doing regarding copyright, but this is one of the major pieces of advocacy that IFLA does on behalf of all librarians and library users around the world, and that's why it's important. There is also a leadership development program, which has an international component. So this year was the first year that 12 leaders around the world were appointed to go into this leadership program. And we met them at the Congress, and it was very exciting to see different people have been working on some of these key initiatives, but they are people that have some potential within their countries, and they are going to be the ambassadors for IFLA at very high level within UNESCO and stuff like that. And it's very exciting to think that one day we might all be global leaders if we go through these programs. Then there is a program for advocacy and advancement of the profession that includes several things, but for example, building stronger library associations, which is a very important one, where there is an online site where people can go and learn more about different aspects of running a library association. Because again, that's where you get the activists to get together to then move on to the bigger things. There is a cultural heritage disaster reconstruction program. And by that we mean either helping to reconstruct and put together collections where there's been an act of terrorism, a bomb, and cases of war, or also a natural disaster. So IFLA also helps with that, along with UNESCO and the Blue Seal program. So again, that's very interesting. And they've been doing lots of work in different places. Lately in Japan after the natural disaster, but also in Iraq and places like that. And the multilingualism program, which is also very important because up until now, most of the work of IFLA has been done in English, although there are several languages that are official languages, being Spanish, French, German, Russian, Chinese, Arabic. So this is the 7 languages. But really, if you look at the website, most of the things are not really translated to all of those languages. There's quite a bit of material translated into Spanish, mainly because the Spanish government, I have to say, has paid lots of money because there is a big Latin American community that really are not so much up to speed with English and they want to have materials in their own languages. There's a bit of stuff in French, but not very much. So this program is about getting a real multicultural association where people can go and access materials in their own languages. Okay, so this is a little bit about the key initiatives. And as I said earlier, I mean, there is publications, there is events, there is all sorts of things that go along with that. But we haven't got much time to talk about everything that IFLA does. But I just wanted to make sure that you understand why IFLA exists, and also that the Congress is just the opportunity for all of us to meet once a year and to share ideas and to learn and to meet together and to do all the business that goes on behind. But it's not the only thing that IFLA does. IFLA works throughout the year, and there is also opportunities for IFLA members and IFLA staff to go and visit members around the world. For example, ILIG has been running conference where in the last couple of years where IFLA speakers have been the main speakers as well. We had the conference on advocacy 2 years ago, and last year we had the conference on, oh, still this year, sorry. I'm talking IFLA years. Yes, we had the, do you want to say that before I go?
The copyright conference where we had Stuart Hamilton came and spoke. The previous year we had Stuart also spoke, and this year we had Joe Leitner, who is the head of the
Management of Library Association section of IFLA.
IFLA
Yeah, Stuart Hamilton being a member of IFLA staff, very senior member, the head of policy and advocacy, so the senior policy advisor. So yeah, not only do we go to IFLA, but IFLA can also come to CILIP, which is an important piece of news, and IFLA can come to your organizations as well. I don't think we need to say very much more, apart from perhaps talking a little bit about the Congress. And the Congress has a separate website, because it's a separate thing. But as Doug is going to tell us about in a minute, the Congress this year happened in Helsinki, in Finland. It goes around the world. When I started, it was truly going around the world. Now it's being decided that it's going to come to Europe every other year. So it's not really, it's very Europe-centric at the moment, but this is only because of the economic conditions, and it's most of the attendees, participants in the Congress are from the European countries. So it's being agreed that actually, in order to get the revenue that IFLA needs to be able to continue working, we really need to ensure that there is a certain number of attendees every year. And for that, bringing the Congress to Europe every other year helps. So I don't know, not everybody feels comfortable about that. It's a bit controversial. I'm not going to get more into it, but on the years that I've been involved, and I see Ian, and probably you go far back than me, but as I said, 2004 was Latin America. Then in 2005 we came to Gothenburg in Oslo. Oslo in Norway. Then in 2006 we went to Asia. In 2007 it was in Africa for the first time ever. In South Africa it was a brilliant one. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. 2008.
Canada.
Yeah, Canada, in Quebec, yes, we were there. 2009, Milan, because again, we're back to Europe. 2011 in Puerto Rico. And 2012 in Helsinki, in Finland. Next year, we're going to Singapore. I say we, I'm planning to go, God knows, but I will be able to save enough money because it's quite an expensive country. But yeah, we're going to Singapore. And this year, we just announced, it's been announced that the year after is going to be in Lyon, in France, in 2014. So you more or less get what IFLA doing in that sense. And lots of things happen at the Congress. It's over 5 days. There's a big program where all the sections of IFLA, which is how IFLA is organizing sections, core activities, and special interest groups. And all the sections and special interest groups and core activities put together programs. So it's very daunting. You probably will talk a little bit more about that, Doug. It's very daunting to try to find the stuff that you want to see and make sure that it doesn't clash with everything else that you want to attend and see. But you can have a look in this bit here of the program. All the program is online, so everybody that submits papers that are accepted get to put their papers online well before the Congress, so people can have a look at the papers and decide whether it's worth going. Our papers are there as well, so if you want to have a look, we'll tell you where they are later on. Some people have said that, and this I want to make this point, that IFLA is only for very senior people. And this is something that comes again and again to me, that only senior people in organizations go to IFLA. And I just want to cannot see. Do you feel that?
Not senior, but those who can access the funds.
Okay, that's a good point. In case of developed countries, where everybody more or less in our profession is able to save, it's not so much of an issue, but really in developing countries it's far more of an issue. I can tell you, I don't get any funding for IFLA. I fund myself every year. So it's about where my priorities are. Perhaps my lifestyle allows me to do that. Perhaps, you know, I have more money than other people. I don't know. But to say that you cannot go to IFLA if you haven't got funding, to me, is not really an excuse. Because there's ways that you can find funds and there's ways that you can fund yourself. But yeah, I think that lots of people perceive that IFLA is kind of very hierarchical and you get to IFLA once you've gone through the Ania, you want to say something?
Yeah, in 2004 they did a survey who attended.
Yeah.
And I was from the smallest authority that attended of the 5,000 delegates.
Were
I
you?
was representing Barnsley, which was 280,000. So nobody from a smaller authority than that got to attend. I, like Maria, paid all my own fare. Barnsley paid nothing.
Yeah, because like me, you're hooked on it, probably.
Yeah.
Yes. And Christy, you want to say
I
something?
was actually thinking that maybe people who are on the lower grades, they don't get to know much about IFLA.
Yes.
They don't know
That's a
its
very valid point.
awareness of this IFLA itself is one of the things that may be, because something like in public libraries, you rarely hear anyone mention that CILIP is not very much talked about in the public libraries I've worked in, let alone talking about IFLA.
Yeah.
So, you know, people have to be aware of something to be involved.
I think you have a very valid point in there. People don't know about it, they won't be able to get involved and where or to apply for funds or to even consider that it's something for them or not. Yeah, that's a very valid point. I found out about IFLA through my involvement with CILIP. I didn't find out about IFLA through my involvement with the university. And I worked at University College London when I started going. And I remember that nobody else, and we were over 200 librarians, work at the university, nobody else was going or had gone to IFLA, not even the head of the service. So it was a bit like, woo, what is this woman going?
Exactly.
Yeah, my colleagues were a bit like,
Yeah.
what are you going to do? Anyway, I will hand over back to Doug, who will tell us a little bit more about his experience, I think.
About why I wanted to go to IFLA. It was actually,
Yeah.
it was actually through attending events like this, which I got a feel for some of the work which was going on. There was 2 years ago, we had the first timer who was then Martin Morris, and we had an experienced IFLA attendee who was Ayub Khan, and they spoke about their experiences in Gothenburg, and it was the enthusiasm really which came through in their presentation. And then ILIG has its informal events. We had Ian spoke about his Caterpillar libraries. It was a couple of years ago, and again that was something which had come through IFLA involvement, through IFLA connections, through international librarianship. We also had Shane Godbolt and Paul Sturgis talking about a collaborative partnership between Partnerships in Health Information and a group called, which is spelled FAITH, which is Freedom of Access to Information and Freedom of Expression, yes, which Paul Sturgis is involved in. And it was hearing their experiences of how the IFLA connection, the international community, had sort of worked together. It made me really want to try and attend this conference. I have a confession, but I did go for one day in Glasgow in 2002. But when applying for the CILIP First Timer Award, which I hope if you haven't already been to IFLA, you'll have a think about some, if not next year, sometime in the future. And I'll be telling you a little bit more about this at the end of the presentation. But as long as you haven't attended an IFLA conference in your own country, then you're still eligible to apply. So I went for 1 year in 2002. I was a library assistant. I was unqualified. It was too much for me then. It was people going back and forth. It was all these different sessions. I didn't know what I wanted to go and see. I followed somebody else around, and she went into all the sessions she wanted to, and I was a little bit lost. Now, when you find out more about how people are involved, what they're doing, you can go and look at the program. There's hard copy is on the table behind you. It's the IFLA Bible, so to speak. It is the guide of all the events which are going on, and you can see it's pretty thick. It's got all the different sections. Everything's numbered. You can choose the special interest groups, the sessions you're interested in. There's a session for newcomers which you can go to, which can help get you orientated, and then you get to meet people. You get, having been involved in ILIG for a little while, I met a few people. I actually saw people there who I hadn't seen in the UK for quite a while, so it was catching up with someone in Helsinki who you hadn't seen. I brought my IFLA snaps because I hope this will put my words into pictures and hopefully give a little feel. Is it visible from the back? Just about. So, what motivates me to go to an IFLA conference? This was the starting session. We had the IFLA newcomers session, and there were a lot of people, a lot of newcomers there. They weren't just from Finland. Finland was so proud and so happy to be hosting this event. You had so many volunteers there welcoming you with perfect English and guiding you around, but it was also, there were more experienced librarians from across the world. There were people who were still studying librarianship from Germany who come over, who were giving papers. It was crossing all levels of the profession, all nationalities. There were over 3,000 librarians from over 120 countries. I've got business cards from over 15 different countries on the table there, and including one from a dog. I've got pictures of the dog. I had to pinch the pictures from the CILIP CEO there. So this was the Helsinki building, the conference building, and this was registration. This is registration at a very quiet period. I went a day in advance because all of the IFLA special, or quite a few of the IFLA special interest groups, when they have a conference where they're expecting quite a few attendees, they will have a satellite conference. So as a health librarian by day, an international interest librarian by night, by hobby, I attended the Health and Life Biosciences satellite section the previous day. So I flew out on the Thursday, attended that session on the Friday, then went to register at the IFLA conference on the Saturday, went to what was the UK Caucus. I'll show you some pictures in a second, and then the conference only started on the Sunday, and I was there until I flew back on the Thursday. So it's a very full session. It's a big commitment, especially in a country where it's €8 for a pint of beer. It's not the cheapest country. So I had committed myself to going. I had submitted a paper to the Health and Life Biosciences actual section as part of the conference before I applied for any funding to go. So whether or not I got funding, I was going to IFLA this year. I had applied previously for the First Timer Award in Puerto Rico, but I was unsuccessful. So I think that the clue is there. Keep on applying. Look at the criteria for the application and build towards it. It might not be something which fits into your career now, but it was very uplifting to go and to meet professionals who had so much in common but came from such different backgrounds. It was the diversity, really. So, like any conference, we've got lots of pictures, and then there is, oh yeah, the reading assistant's dog. And we did wonder when you're sitting there having your cup of coffee, what is a dog doing at a librarian conference? This dog is very important because children love to read to the dog, and the dog likes to sit there and be read to. The dog was very popular, big hit, and I have a his or her business card, I'm not sure. I didn't have one to give back. That was probably my biggest regret, was I didn't have business cards, because people kept on giving me business cards and I didn't have anything to give back. Yes. One for you, Ian.
Oh, thank you.
This was my first mobile library. I think apparently it's a very strange one, because, or a very special one, because it's a truck rather than a bus. But yes, each day they had mobile libraries parked outside, and you could pop in and have a look. Fantastically decorated, very bright and vibrant. I attended the Health and Life Biosciences Standing Committee. So this is the meeting within the meeting. It was interesting to attend. There's a mix of, so you've got American librarians, Finnish librarians, from Belgium, from Cuba, from Nigeria. I didn't feel it was the most dynamic group, but possibly the way IFLA works, a lot of the business is going to be done by email outside of sitting around a table. And you can only have respect, but you've got to bear in mind that for me, English is my first language. It's fantastic. I can talk in English, I can present in English, but you've got so many people that they're talking, engaging, debating, discussing in a second language or a completely different language. And you can just take your hat off to that. I couldn't do that in any other languages. I would just be terrified at the thought. This is a UK caucus, gathering of UK representatives at the conference, and it was lovely and informal. It was hosted by the CILIP president, Phil Bradley, who is there with the CILIP Aspire award winner from the Ukraine, Yulia Kashpruk. So that award was set up in memory of Bob McKee. I'll stick on that one, so sorry. That award was set up in the memory of Bob McKee, and it is something that CILIP works with IFLA to send a new timer, a first timer from abroad, a new professional to attend IFLA, not necessarily not a UK representative, but from Eastern Europe. The caucus was an opportunity to meet colleagues from the UK. I met up with people like Christy, with Chris wherever he is, and so it was an opportunity to chat. And I also stood up there. I didn't put that picture up. There was a picture of me standing in my jeans with my top, telling everybody they must sign up for ILIG. Because they're all there, international librarians, they must join ILIG. I've been monitoring the situation, but it was lovely and informal. We sat, we chatted, we had a nibble, we had drinks. Some of the other caucuses, apparently they sat down and got talked to and had presentations for an hour. So I think the UK version really hit the nail on the head. And then the conference started. So that was the next day. So even before the conference had started, I'd been to a committee meeting, had a satellite conference, and my first knees up. And I'd also been out to my first social dinner after the Health and Life Biosciences. The networking goes on. It's not just sitting around a table meeting people. You're meeting people all the time when you're going from one session to another. When you're looking at the posters, you're running into people. You're getting introduced to people. You're having social meals outside. You're really sort of networking all the time. It's quite unique in that way. So this was the main hall. And it doesn't really give the whole impression, because you've got seats going all the way back. And what was fascinating is, so you have this is the IFLA president, Edith Parent, speaking, welcoming everybody there. And you had everybody with their iPhones recording it, taking pictures. So it's almost like a concert, except rather than people having their lighters on, they've got their little cameras filming this all. Now this, forgotten the title of this session. This was the highlight for me, actually, and I'm not just saying this because two of the speakers are here with us, but it was a joint session between the new professionals and the management of library associations group, and that was really the highlight. It was bringing together the senior people running the library associations with the new professionals working together. Now, got Maria and Chris there giving their talk, and this is the breakout table. And now, with all good breakout groups, you could always go on for hours. We had far too short a time, but just to sort of give you the essence of IFLA, so I'm just going to go around the countries around the table. So we've got Thailand, Holland, UK, Norway, Canada, Finland, Japan, Latvia, Germany, and Argentina, all sitting around one table, all discussing, and we just didn't stop talking. So time ran out, and it was for different perspectives. You can see you've got the older professionals and new professionals all finding the common ground, debating and giving the different perspectives, and finding out that the Argentinian librarian is almost the only new professional in her country. She's responsible for training new professionals and setting up groups, and she's done that on her own. And the lack of support and the different approaches. And similarly, there's stories about what they've done with the Latvian Library Association as well. So it was very inspiring. And there is a very good report on this on the internet as well, which I must make sure the link is available. Socials, as I said, the socialising goes on, and I was lucky enough to get an unofficial invite to an evening gathering of the members of the Management of Library Associations group. And although the picture's not great, we've got the president-elect of IFLA has joined there because she's a member of that group. That's Sinikka from Finland. And you've got people from across Europe and America and Japan having a social. And I tried reindeer for the first time. Had reindeer and mash and a pint of beer, and it cost me €28. I didn't eat that very much, to be honest. But I wouldn't recommend reindeer. It was not really worth it. There were lots of jokes about reindeer and Santa Claus at the beginning. And the itinerant poetry librarian was there. I believe she resides in UCL.
Yes.
Yes, they set up a stall just in the middle of the conference. And I think you'd probably quite like that picture, because if you look at the website, Google it, the itinerant poetry library, there's all the pictures of hiding the face. So I think that one would be appreciated. I meant to invite her, but we ran out of time. The longest queue of librarians in the world. Free drinks that way. So you have our social events. This one was arranged. And everyone is queuing to go into the Finnish cultural evening, where you have little tickets which you can get yourself a drink, or you can get some of the Finnish cuisine, which was mainly fish and stuff like that. Yes, I've never seen so many librarians in one queue in my life.
And we dance.
Yes, some people dance. Some people don't stop dancing. Now this is another session. This is to show you the differences. This is one of the WLIC sessions, which is Maria was chairing. And at the back, you have everybody in the translator booths. So for the bigger sessions, the foreign language delegates can get their headphones beforehand. So you have your translators sitting there translating all of the discussion and the conversation which is going on. Not every session, but just the bigger sessions. And I escaped as well. I took a day off and I went to Estonia. I caught a ferry across to Tallinn. And I tried to get into the Estonian National Library, but it was closed for refurbishment. So this is it. It's actually quite a controversial one, because it was built with a lot of Russian money. And the Estonians are not very happy about it. So this is the Finnish National Library on the outside, and on the inside. So there are opportunities during the event, the conference, to go on lots of tours, to go on professional development visits, to see libraries. I did it on my own 2 feet and had a little wander around, but you could go on the tours and the visits and really get a feel for some of these fantastic libraries which they had there. And as I said, the Finns were so proud to be hosting this international event. And at the end, there was voting. I didn't quite fully understand this, but people seemed to have cards and they could wave them.
It's AGM.
It's the AGM. It was. I didn't understand the colours. It seemed like a football game with referees, red cards, green cards, yellow cards.
Good trade union principles. It's
Yes.
on you to get, all of you who are members of CILIP, give us votes.
So coloured cards, and everyone was waving. And yes, it was. I was watching. It was entertaining to watch, but I think I need to go back again sometime to work out exactly what it's happening and try to get myself some cards. And that's my kit, which I brought for you behind. So my booty I got from a conference gathering. So you could always spot a delegate by the fact they had their name tackle and their bag. So you, as part of your, once you've registered, you've got a freedom pod, so you've got a travel card to go around Helsinki. And then you could always spot a delegate. You can go up and chat with them and see where they're from, because it's all on their label, and they've got a little backpack. And you could spot them a mile off, so it was very easy to, you couldn't, does he look like a librarian or not? It was easy to tell. We're all marked up. And that's the end of my pictures. So, is there anything else I want to say? So I will have a look at my list.
What did you get out of it?
What did I get out of it? I got a. It's you get inspired. I got a lot of connections. I got to meet people I would never have had the opportunity to meet. I got really encouraged by international librarianship, by building connections, by talking to people. Outside of the events, I also got to meet European librarians to discuss possible cooperation and collaboration, and how we can look at working together. I got to attend a little gathering to discuss some work which Partnerships in Health Information is doing. I felt very positive, very invigorated coming back. It gave me a lot of faith in the profession. I think you see a lot of negative coverage, a lot of battling to save libraries, and then if you're in one place where you've got 3,000 librarians all getting on together, all speaking, chatting, communicating, it's uplifting. I couldn't put my finger on it. One of the sessions I went to at the beginning, the speaker said he went to his first IFLA conference years ago, 15, 20 years ago, and he went there and he said, not all of the papers were great, but there was something about it, and he just kept on going back ever since. And it's a bit addictive, I think. I don't know. I would love to say I could go to Singapore next year, but I think I'll set my sights on Leon. I have a child on the way, so I think Leon is probably closer, affordable. It was made much easier by the financial support I had for CILIP, but as I said, I was committed to going, and it enabled me to experience it more thoroughly, rather than going for 1 day, 2 days, and then disappearing off. It was inspiring. The tag was inspiring, empowering, and surprising, and I think it certainly achieved all of that for me. I didn't really know what to expect, but it was. It made you feel good about being a librarian. Oh, pass back to Maria.
It's very good job. Do you mind putting a picture up? Your highlight, for example, that would be quite good, because I don't want to talk in a, so people can look at that rather than look at me all the time. So Doug has asked me to talk a little bit about how do you go from being a first timer, which is where he is now, or where I was in 2004, to being an IFLA activist and getting more involved. So The only way I can really do that is by telling you my own experience, because everybody's different, and I suppose that, I wouldn't be able to make assumptions about how other people got there and got involved, their different routes. This is the Caucus. Is that your highlight? It's because we have those
That's fine,
drinks.
but I lost that one earlier.
Yes. I just want to see what else do you have in here that relates to groups of people that I don't even, I can't click that. I can't even click.
Good job.
That's a good one. Well, that's a good one. Thank you. Leave it here. The UK landscape. This was actually it was my first year presenting any paper. And having been to IFLA for several years, lots of people were surprised that I had never presented. But yes, I was an IFLA first time as a presenter. And it was the first time that I ever put a paper forward. So I was also very lucky that the paper got accepted, because it's very difficult sometimes due to the high volume of people. But yeah, how did I get involved? I was very lucky when I went to IFLA in 2004. The following year was election year, and elections happen every 2 years, and the committees are elected for a period of 4 years. So when I came back, I was really inspired, as Doug was talking about. I was really, really inspired. The First Timer award was won by 2 people at that time, so I went with someone else, who I happened to know from before, just by accident, because I had worked with her previously. And we